Hey everybody, it is Marcus D'Angelo, and I'm joined here by my slapdick brother Dominic D'Angelo of WrestleZone.com, and we are bringing you guys two Dynamite dudes with attitudes. Let's go, Dominic. What a tremendous week of Dynamite! I gotta say, I was impressed for the most part this week.
Whoa! See that?
I
Wow!
know.
What a difference a week makes. And you know what? I I was kind of on the opposite coin after the initial watch. I rewatched some of it, and my tune has changed a little bit. After finishing it for the first time, it was a tale of two shows for me. So
You were a little bit less impressed than last week.
yes, yes,
Wow. See, I,
but
I felt like I felt like I spoke and Tony Khan listened, Dominic.
oh, took some
Um,
notes
adjusted his show based on my desires,
based
and
on bad cop Marcus here.
and let me tell you, this week I might wind up being the good cop, at least for the most part. There was some junk. There was a little wrestle crap, a couple missed opportunities, but I thought there was some really good stuff here as well.
I'm intrigued to see what you have to say because there was a lot that I was like, I don't think Marcus is going to like that. And there was parts where I really did not like certain aspects. But yeah, let's get to it, brother.
All right. Well, I believe it or not, I'm going to start off. We usually start off on like a high note, I guess, where we talk about like one of our favorite parts of the show. I don't know that this was like the best part of the show. I guess this was just something that I was impressed with, and that was the opener between Top Flight and the Young Bucks. I got to say, Dom, this is not my type of match, as you know. But those two teams, they worked very, very well together. Their styles did not clash. You could see a little bit of that, like, dance routine, practiced movement in what they were doing. But let me tell you, man, it came off pretty well. And the guy I think that came off especially well on this was Dante of Top Flight. Man, he is an incredible athlete
Is he
and move.
he's the younger brother or is he the,
Yes, the younger brother. And let me tell you, man, he is like very smooth, very fluid in the ring. He's the kind of guy. I see like Jeff Hardy-esque potential out of him as far as like what his ceiling could be like.
yeah, Marcus, first watch, like I say every week, I'm recapping the show for WrestleZone. So I'm writing and looking and missing. I'm covering what I can, but I'm missing like the details in the match and stuff like that. I say that every week. But that's a match I wanted to rewatch because I was like, man, they move so quick. I miss stuff as I'm looking and writing, and then I'm not getting the gist of it. So first watch, I was like, okay, this is like any other tag team match, Young Bucks kind of thing. I like the Young Bucks ultimately. I like I'll get to them in a second. But I thought second watch, I watched it through, and it's a damn good match. And those kids, they from a ring presence standpoint, they're already there. Like, kind of like personality and persona a little bit. They showed a little bit of that in this match and played off very well against the Bucks, which in turn too, there wasn't. I mean, they kind of played heelish to an extent, but it wasn't like, oh God, that's alarming or anything like that, or just like off-putting or anything to that extent. But like it was a well played and balanced match, I thought.
Yeah, I think, obviously the Young Bucks are very talented at what they do. I give them some hell on this program just because it's not my flavor of ice cream exactly, but I
Now,
think
from that though, I mean, before this whole uh, gray area of babyface heel stuff with the Bucks, you were pretty much a rock solid fan of their work and everything like that for the most part too, correct? Like, I just
I was, but let's view this through the lens of my experience with them. My experience when it came to the Young Bucks was against teams like the Lucha Bros for the most part, and against the Motor City Machine Guns when they were Generation Me with Impact.
Mhm.
So and I loved what I was seeing out of them when they were with Impact. I was like, man, those guys are unbelievable. What a cool. That was my first introduction to them. That was the first time I ever saw them. And, I thought they were really cool. I was blown away with them. So now, we're moving ahead, and I'm seeing them matched up against teams that don't exactly jive with their style for the most part. FTR is they've only wrestled them once, but that's the example that I'm going to use in that. How about Butcher and Blade? I've got a couple more in there, I'm sure, where the style is just kind of conflicted. When they were with guys like Private Party, you could see that very rehearsed, kind of stuff going on with them. I didn't see quite the same chemistry that I had seen between them and like Motor City Machine Guns until now. Now they've got like that chemistry with this Top Flight team. I can see why they wanted to work these guys. I'm impressed for now, but I expect to go back to feeling the same way about both the Young Bucks and Top Flight. I can't picture them having a good match with FTR, and FTR could have good matches with broomsticks.
But you liked the match with Full Gear, right? Didn't you like the tag match?
I mean, for the most part, I thought it was a really good match, but like the conflicting styles, you can see disparaging moments during that. So I'm glad you pointed that out, because I wasn't being very clear. Like there was a disparagement between styles during that match. So it took a match that could have been really, really great and made it like it was still a good match, just not as good as it could have been.
So yeah, okay, I'm still a little foggy on what you mean, because like the match at Full Gear was really I thought well done. And like
let me phrase it differently.
Okay.
The Young Bucks needed to get their shit in during that match with FTR. FTR kind of relented and allowed them to get their shit in, which made the match way less smooth than I think it could have been. So like the Young Bucks, they have like this very specific style. They have this like over the top, crazy, aggressive, like many brutal blows that they're dishing out throughout the course of the match. Whereas FTR, they're more methodical, like use their head, outwork the opponent type. So like these two styles came together, I think, the best way they possibly could have in that match, largely due to the fact that FTR is an unbelievable team of individuals. Those two are technicians to a T. So I think that they kind of carried that match. It didn't come off as good as this match did because of the major difference in styles. This match came off like a 5-star match, whereas their one against FTR at Full Gear, I don't know, maybe like a 3-star match. Still a very good match. Not as good as it could have been.
Okay, here's another question for you. So if considering how they work and maybe who they're up against and what that style is, maybe if they combat or if they coincide, what if you implement a clear-cut babyface and heel persona with them? Like they had a more defined persona in that regard. Would that alter your opinions of maybe how these matches come across? Or is that kind of lurking in the back of your mind as you're, assessing these matches, so to speak?
Well, that's a good question, and I think that there's some validity there. Half the battle is getting butts and seats, and the way that you get butts and seats is you create a conflict, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if there's a conflict between two, if Satan and Hitler are about to get into a fist fight, who are you rooting for, Dom? So
kind of one and the same in the long
right?
Yeah,
like they're both the fucking worst. So you want to see them just knock each other out or kill each other or whatever. So like that is a huge part of the battle, and maybe subconsciously as I'm watching the match, I'm just like I was a little bit checked out due to that storyline standpoint as opposed to the working standpoint. But yeah, I mean that's a major influencer, Dom. Is you want to see heels do heelish things. You want to see the baby faces rise above it, and we didn't get enough of that leading up to the Full Gear match.
Yeah, agreed. And it's a problem. I think it's a problem. I don't want to see that from the Young Bucks because honestly, like if they portray themselves in one particular form or fashion, whether that's babyface or heel, I think they're both very good at doing that, whichever one they go with. So it's like, I remember Nick Jackson having a singles match. Was it against Phoenix? Like months ago. He just had one singles match because Matt was hurt and he was fighting. I really think it was Phoenix, but I was like, damn, like he could be a top babyface in AEW. Nick Jackson, just himself, and I was like, so they have the capability to do that, but I don't know what's like. Again, we run around in circles with this discussion. Is like what we want to see that, but we're not getting that from the Young Bucks, and that's I think, in my opinion, that can be long-term damaging to their brand and ultimately AEW's brand if that becomes a huge factor in how a lot of their storylines have played out. But did you happen to listen to that Tony Khan podcast I sent to you?
I got through the majority of it, and then my phone was dying, and I had to get in the shower.
Did you get to the part where okay, so this is a PW Torch interview that Wade Keller conducted with Tony Khan just this past week on Tuesday. Did you get to the part about baby faces and heels? Did you get to part?
I didn't. I got through, I think it was about the first 10 or maybe 15 minutes of the 30-minute interview.
Okay. So Wade asked him about that, and it's bittersweet because Wade flat out asks him, and I've been a PW Torch subscriber for 8 years now, so it's like, that's where I got pretty much all of my wrestling education is from PW Torch. Like before this, I thought AJ Styles as Ric Flair's protege was amazing. So I've learned a lot since then. So
wow.
Yeah. Well, Marcus, I think you were in the same boat with me too back then.
Nope. I remember thinking it was dumb back in 2010.
I don't know. I think we were kind of in that same boat.
Absolutely not.
Okay. Well, either way, Wade flat out asks Tony about, hey, so the Young Bucks have been super kicking civilians, and that's kind of ridiculous. Like, it comes off ridiculous. What do you think? What's your opinion on babyface and heel dynamic? So Tony didn't necessarily answer that directly about the Young Bucks, but he did mention that he's for baby faces and heels, like that dynamic. But he admits to pushing those limits too in a lot of ways and going for certain things. Marcus, what did you think about overall this episode of Dynamite and what that dynamic was as like a over-encompassing theme of the show?
Well, yeah, I think that, well, let me just touch on what Tony Khan said. For him to say, yeah, I believe in baby faces and heels, and then to book things the way that he does, it's very contradictory. Not just with the Young Bucks. Like, you take a look at the Inner Circle in Vegas, for example. What were they doing to make you dislike them as a heel faction? Nothing. They were doing some very entertaining stuff. They were in Vegas. It was kind of like a Hangover spoof. They're bringing back Conan, and they're bringing back Swoggle and Elvis. So like, they're doing all this stuff, and I've even got my notes here. I was very, very entertained by the stuff they were doing. But
were you?
I was. It was highly, I mean, what is not entertaining about, like, you see Conan pop up, then
okay.
Swoggle appears.
Okay, I guess let's get to that in a second. But finish your point, and then we'll continue.
The point is that this is your heel faction, your money heel faction, and I mean money quite literally with what I imagine they're paying Chris Jericho. So this is your money heel faction. You've tied MJF into it. MJF was the clear-cut, probably biggest heel in the company. And now I'm smiling every time they're on screen. There's something wrong with that picture.
Yeah. I did not. I thought part one of the Inner Circle Slays Vegas was entertaining, and a little bit of part two, but I really ultimately did not like it. Like, I didn't. And I'm somebody that's a huge fan of the Dinner Debonair, and you kind of feel a little differently in that regard. But like, I thought this was like, it was too much, and it was a little, what does Kev Kellum always say? Oh my God, why am I losing? It's such a, indulgence. It's overindulgence a little bit to this. And I really felt like, with the Hornswoggle thing, I was like, what the fuck is that? Like, what? Like, what is that? Are we supposed to think that somebody birthed him or what is going on? It was just like, I liked Ortiz in it because he's just like a fucking psychopath. That's like, everybody's hungover and drunk and hammered. He's like working out. It's just like that aspect. I thought everybody played their roles really well in it ultimately, but I did not like it. I just was like, no, this is what WWE gets criticized for, is doing this stuff,
Yeah.
And, it's just like, some of it was executed well, but it wasn't as engaging, I thought, as Le Dinner Debonair. And I think it was too close to Le Dinner Debonair to really stand out, and it more so like hammered home the point that, hey, look at what we're doing this, we're doing that, like we're kind of going out of the beaten path, where it's just like we've seen that a lot from AEW, and it's something that we didn't really want to see from AEW, like, I don't think so. It's just like the scales were a little out of balance in that regard to like comedy and everything. It did not sit well with me, like from just a program perspective.
Yeah. And even as far as the Swoggle thing is concerned, I like it made me laugh just because it was so ridiculous. But you look at Swoggle as a professional, and he just had like a match against Brian Myers at the
Turning
Impact.
point.
Right, exactly. And he even put out a tweet afterwards saying like, I just proved that I belong in this business. And then they're kind of making him a joke. He was wearing a diaper and crying. So,
Well, I mean, that's ultimately his decision. Like, you're gonna, if you want to come across as and maybe this is just from that storyline standpoint of Impact, but it's poor storytelling, or if that's the case, because like, okay, yeah, he maybe came off. I didn't see the match, but like, and like, that's the thing is, if you want to shake that look or that out, that wearing a fucking diaper on primetime television is not going to do that.
No. And ultimately yes, he agreed to the decision, but who's making these calls? It's Tony Khan or
Marcus. But
and look, Dom, yeah, Swoggle has the option to say no. However, would most of us say no to a national television spot on a major wrestling?
I was a star that wanted to shake off a certain look or personality or an identity, yes, that's what I'd say with. Yeah, what? Okay, Mark. So, all right, you're a pro wrestler, okay? You're a pro wrestler. Tony Khan's like, hey, Marcus, I'm gonna pay you a great amount of money. You go on national TV. You're wearing a fucking diaper and crying like a baby on television. What do you say to that? You gonna do it?
Well, that all depends on my circumstances. If I had been at autograph signings and sold to 12 fans, and I hadn't worked on national television in quite a while, on a network, yeah, I mean, that might be hard to say no to, Dominic. You're getting national exposure on network television.
Not the way you want to promote yourself as a star. You're gonna,
as they say, Dom, no publicity is bad publicity. So Swoggle was he was all over Twitter. He was all over TNT. Major Wrestling Figure Podcast is retweeting it. So there's a lot to be said for it. So now, that being said, Dom, I think it truly all comes down to Tony Khan not positioning things correctly. He's not positioning the top heel group as heels, and he's bringing in stars such as Swoggle, an established star, again, been on WWE, so he has equity, and you're putting him in a position, you're asking him to do something that he probably doesn't feel comfortable denying, and you're putting him in this position after he just had a match where he felt that he established himself as someone who belongs in the business. So to me, I mean, you can talk about the boys all you want, but it really lies with the office. At the end of the day, the buck stops there. Somebody should have said, "Hey, Tony, that's a stupid idea," and nobody did.
There's a lot. I mean, I think it's a kind of a give and take thing with this, because it does depend on the individual in a lot of ways to make that decision and go across with that. Like, I mean, we're talking about a guy that's as Swoggle is. We're talking about somebody that's probably not gonna. He's not gonna be a regular on AEW programming. This might just be the one shot and that's it. But it's just like, but you're trying to promote your own brand, your own identity. Wrestling is based off of that identity of like where like back in the territory days. And I know it's not the same as it used to be or anything like that. But that's how these stars became stars, was going to the beat of their own drum and making their own decisions and pushing against the conventional of, authority in a lot of ways, whether that was, a kind of quote unquote a facade or not. So
Well,
you're going to do that. You have to keep fueling that fire of, okay, I'm sticking to my guns and I'm not going to do this. Like somebody like Marcus, I'm just pulling this out of thin air. Bruiser Brody wouldn't do some shit like that because he knows he's going to make money out in Japan, kicking the shit out of people. So it's like he's preserving himself long term. This is like he could make a ton of money doing something like this and getting publicity, being on a primetime spot on TNT. But ultimately, that's not going to help him long term. It's going to hurt him long term because define yourself in fashion to a mass amount of people.
Comparing it to the territory days isn't fair because, you're talking about Oregon, you're talking about Florida, you're talking about the Texas territory. I mean, I could go on and on. New York, Minnesota. There were a lot of territories back in the day where people could make money. Now, in America, there's 2 where you make good money and then a few where you make okay money. So it's and one of these companies where you can make the really good money comes calling. It's hard to shoot down their idea. I'm just saying, of course, Bruiser Brody wouldn't do it. I don't think Tony Khan would put Bruiser Brody in a position where he'd be.
I don't think that either.
But now it's a little bit easier to ask somebody who's been on WWE TV and been made a joke of, looking like he's covered with doo-doo and dirt all the time on his face.
You got doo-doo on your face.
Right. He already got the, he's a little person and they're dressing him up like a leprechaun. I mean, what's more demeaning than that, Dom? I guess probably putting him in a diaper could be construed as more demeaning, but it's, this person's already established himself as halfway a comedy act. So that's probably why Tony Khan is putting him in the position. And that's why Swoggle is saying, yep, let's do it. I don't know, man. We could probably go back and forth on this for another 30 minutes, but why bother?
Yeah.
It was dumb. We can both agree there. And I don't think that they position their heel group the way that they should have been.
Well, now it sounded though like you liked the segment. Did you ultimately like the segment?
Oh yeah, it was funny. If this was a group of baby faces out there and we're having fun with them as they're out there getting hammered and
acting into Conan
stuff. Exactly, bumping into Conan and Swoggle and getting into hijinks. Loved it because it was entertaining. I even said in my notes I can't help but enjoy it, even though they're making MJF a little bit too likable. So yeah, I don't know. They again, and this will come up soon. Again, a missed opportunity. Dominic,
real quick. I thought Elvis stole the show. My favorite part of the whole thing was I think Sammy was gonna cut himself because of Blood Brothers, and Elvis was like, "Hey man, come on now, you wanna do this?"
I was gonna say that Sammy kind of stole it for me because he was being insane, which was making me laugh.
Yeah.
But so next up, Dominic, we have Orange Cassidy and Kip Sabian in a match where Miro, who should never have a live mic, they're like, "Hey, why don't we sit you next to a couple of the greatest announcers ever? Give you a live mic for the entirety of this match." So that was bad. Go ahead, Dom. What are your thoughts?
Well, I like the match. I thought Orange Cassidy him and Kip complimented one another very well, and I just think Orange Cassidy's really on a roll, and putting him in a match with somebody to the level of Kip is fine, and just gets him further over and has him, as a main factor on your television program. Miro, I wasn't, I get certain things about, obviously when he's short term on the mic, it's a little questionable. Him being on commentary wasn't as bad as I as I really, I was like keeping stuff in mind and everything like that. And I thought he overall did a pretty rock solid job on commentary. Like it wasn't a big issue for me, honestly.
I thought he sucked on commentary.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't do him any favors there.
What didn't
I'll
you
tell
like
you
about
that
it? Can you be specific? I'm filling coffee up, but keep talking.
so what got me about him was essentially his delivery. Where so he's next to Jim Ross, been in the business 30 plus years. He's next to Tony Schiavone, again 30 plus years. Excalibur, yeah. But now you've got Miro up there, and he just like there's no. Usually, it's like the announcers kind of lead you through it. They're like nudging you towards certain storylines. At least that's what it's been in the past. Whenever they bring somebody in, then that person kind of takes it from there and shows their stuff on the mic. Well, he has no stuff to show on the mic. He's not good on the mic, just cutting a promo. So like when they would throw to him, he wasn't capitalizing on the opportunities. I guess that's the best way for me to put it. As far as the match itself was concerned, in my opinion, dude, this Orange Cassidy stuff is wearing very thin. It was entertaining for a minute. Still, like, there's a hint of entertainment, but like I'm truly nervous for what his career is going to do. Doing this thing every single week on the indies, this whole like into your pockets thing, every single week on the indies, that's one thing, because the indies right now are about as close as you're ever going to get to the territory days, where you're in a different town all the time, and it's these people who have never seen this before unless it was on a YouTube video a couple of weeks before or whatever. And now all of a sudden this guy's doing it in person. You're like, oh, this guy's hilarious. That's really funny. He doesn't care about anything. It's hilarious. But now he's on national television every week doing it, and it's like, okay, you're still doing this, like still your thing a year later.
Mark, okay, keep going.
Yeah, let me finish, and then you can go to bat for Orange Cassidy, because I know you like him.
Yeah.
I also wanted to say, I've compared Kip Sabian to Shawn Michaels before, and let me tell you, the way he comes strutting out to the ring, the look, the girl next to him, cockiness, very Shawn Michaels. In the ring, not Shawn Michaels. He what did I write here? Yeah, it's just he's not especially proficient in the ring, and it just wasn't a good match. And then you've got Miro talking over it, and let me tell you, it was if you could make
again though,
make it smell worse, they managed to figure it out.
is this the outside factors coming into play with it? Like, if we're just going from an in-ring work perspective, is like the video game slash what they're trying to get across of these two guys affecting how you're viewing the match, or is this purely a in-ring perspective thing for you?
Well, let me tell you, in ring it wasn't very good. So I would recognize that. If it was the greatest storyline in the world, you can see bad wrestling because it's right there in front of you, and I saw it there. And yeah, I mean, as far as Miro is concerned, if they were doing things the right way, it would be Miro standing behind somebody who's talking for him, and then Miro runs down to the ring, which, by the way, that was the best part of the entire thing, when Miro came down to the ring and just knocked him out of his damn shoes. That was quite a clothesline. Orange sold it very well, which I was impressed with, because nobody sells anything anymore, but he sold it like he got shot with a shotgun.
Dude, that's why I love Orange Cassidy. I really maybe it's like, again, to this point, that he's not your flavor, and I think though, like, there's so much that's tangible about him, where yes, like I like part of like the delayed pocket stuff. In particular in this match was a little like, I don't know, but Kip kicked him. He didn't let it happen. So it was just like, and Tony played into that. Schiavone played into that too. It was like, hey, he's gonna do that. That's what's gonna happen.
Oh, he's playing head games.
Well, was that Excalibur saying that? But Tony was like,
that was Tony. I think,
was it? I can't. Yeah. Tony was like, yeah, if he's gonna do that, he's gonna get kicked or something. He pretty much said. But no, I'm totally against what you're saying about Orange. I feel like if he was in front of a crowd that was big, like, that shit is gonna still be over and continue to be over. Like, there's nothing that's like really necessarily changing or super affecting. Like, I don't think this thing's kind of wearing thin. I really don't.
You're talking about him doing it in front of a live crowd. That's a very, very different situation. Yes, most of the live crowd is
Well, what are you
going
going
to
to
be.
do? You can't change
Wait
it.
a minute.
Hey,
Let me
I
finish.
was talking first, okay?
Finish you bastard.
I didn't finish. You didn't finish.
What are you saying? So anybody who's going to be in the live crowd at AEW has probably seen him on national television do his shtick before. But it's very different to I might pop for it if I'm front row in a live crowd, Dom, just because it's like you're seeing it right there in person. There's a huge difference. As opposed to the casual, I'm just saying, as opposed to the casual wrestling viewer, the guy who's tuning in once every 2 weeks, sees the guy doing the pockets thing, maybe makes him laugh first few times. After 6-8 months of it, you're just like, what's okay? Like, what else does this guy have? Is that it?
Well, Marcus, you want to turn those casual viewers into consistent viewers. So,
and you're not going to do that with the same shit week after week.
How do you know? Like, if you tune into this guy, you're like, there's something cool about that guy. I've never seen that before. I'm going to tune in next week. And if that's what you're going there for, that's what you're going to get. And I also think that they've developed Orange since we first saw him in AEW. So it's like, this was not a problem for me, man. And I feel like, and what I meant by live audience is if you had a live audience there more, even to the viewer, like the audience would pop for him. Therefore, it would seem like a bigger deal to the television viewer at home. That's what I'm talking about.
Like having a recorded studio audience laughing over a sitcom.
Yeah, but you know the difference between that.
It makes you laugh along with them. I understand what you're saying, Dom. I do, but like theoretically, this casual viewer could have tuned in a year ago and seen Orange Cassidy doing this thing, and he's like, you know what? Next week I'm going to watch and see what that guy's doing. And that now Dominic, it's 52 weeks later, and he's still doing it. So yeah, I don't know, dude. It's just maybe it's a personal preference. To me, it's just getting pretty old. I will say though, I'm intrigued by the idea that they're building toward a feud, between Miro and Orange, because it's going to be
that you are not sold on.
Well, I'm just saying.
Nonetheless, see, he's got to be working.
Miro's a big monster, and Orange is like this skinny little doesn't care about anything kind of guy. So that could be an interesting dynamic.
Hey, guess what? Guess what? Who else is like that? So Luchasaurus and Marco Stunt. Are you still intrigued to see that match?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Because even though Miro is burying himself on the mic and AEW is burying him by the way that they're positioning him, he's still, when he's in the ring, he's an absolute savage. And let me say, dude, that I would be anticipating that match about 150 times more if Miro had been positioned as this fire breathing dragon monster guy outside the ring.
I can buy that for sure. Yes.
So that is my biggest issue there.
Okay.
All right. So next up, Dominic. How about let's talk a little bit about Jon Moxley and that promo, and then the subsequent contract signing situation.
Yes, dude. Moxley is at the top of the babyface game right now. Like old school babyface, Dusty Rhodes. Again, reach to the screen kind of promo where and you know what? Off the beaten path type of thing too. Like, so much you're used to seeing with these promos from a babyface perspective is like, I've worked so hard to get to this point, or like, this is my ultimate dream is to do all this stuff. Like same shit all the fucking time. This is he talks his story about his dad picking him up from a police station and telling him he's a good guy, or we're the good guys. And then, he weaves that into revealing that Renee is pregnant too, like all in one whole thing. But it's also like such a unique way to take it. And him kind of like, all right, I'm going to be the good guy in this situation. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to shake Kenny's hand. I'm going to tell him he's the best there is. And then we're going to sign that contract, and then we're going to have the match. Like, it's just a really, really well done thing. He's consistently on fire each week in and week out, and each promo is unique and stands out on its own. That's what you want from a top star, and Moxley is delivering that on all types of levels.
Yeah, he kind of outthinks everybody when it comes to promos. Where you're right, we've gotten used to the same sound, the same look, the same everything when it comes to promos, and Moxley has figured out something pretty incredibly that we haven't gotten to see maybe ever in wrestling, as far
Or at
as like
least in a really, really long time that we haven't seen from modern day wrestling.
right, the delivery, and I think we can nip the whole like Stone Cold Jon Moxley thing in the bud.
Yeah, no,
That
nothing.
stupid narrative,
So
because
dumb.
he's not. Could you ever see Stone Cold cutting a promo like that?
No,
Absolutely not.
absolutely not.
So John he's a very original character, a very viable character, and I'm with you, man. I think him being ranked number 1 on PWI, well justified. He's good enough in the ring, very very good on the mic, just a very entertaining guy. I did feel like though the contract signing had some missed opportunities. How did you feel about that?
So, I was okay with it. Now, like, kind of predictable, and in the respect that okay, somebody's laid out backstage, and there's an issue going on. What's happened? Why is that?
We're opposite. We're opposite on this, but go ahead.
Um, but I kind of liked Kenny's reaction to the whole thing. Like,
We are 100% opposite
really,
on this. Yes. Wow.
really, I liked
Yes.
Kenny's reaction on the whole thing. I thought, like, again, in a unique kind of way, like you're used to, okay, a conflict at the contract signing, things like that. And Kenny's just like, what the hell? Like, okay, got attacked. What do you want me to do about it? But John, you better show up here. That's it. But okay, the thing's over. I'll sign it. And then that's it. I kind of liked it. I liked it. And I thought Kenny, the way he dressed, the entrance, the ridiculous over-the-top entrance where they mentioned that he's already a Wrestling Observer Hall of Famer, just great stuff in regards to that. So, yeah, no, give me your thoughts then. It is crazy. So
Yeah. Well, so it's funny that we're completely opposite on things. Where
we're really opposite this week.
to me, the whole him being laid out backstage, I've gotten so used to the whole, both guys come to the ring, there's some tension, and then like the table is like Chekhov's gun, where they're like, okay, so the table's there, so somebody's going through the table.
Yeah.
That's been like the staple in these contract signings. So that's what I was expecting. And then so like, Jon Moxley's music kicks on, and you're like, okay, here comes Moxley. And they're like looking around the arena, and then they show him laid out backstage. It was like, okay, this is like a little bit different. Obviously people being laid out backstage is a staple in pro wrestling, but during a contract signing, I don't know that I have personally ever seen it. So I was like, okay, that's cool. It's like a little different flavor. And then, so I thought that Omega had a good angle at the beginning where he was just like, well, it was like his arm first, and now he's got a nosebleed. I'm just going to sign the contract. And to me, I was like, no, dude, like there's a missed opportunity. Like where if he's going to be heel, just be all the way heel. Just be like, look at this coward. Like, look at this guy. He gets punched in the face and he wants to stay backstage. I'm here. I came all the way out. I hurt my elbow, drinking my coffee this morning, but I still made it. Like he should have just been way over the top, ridiculous, calling him a coward, like just going full blown heel about it. So to me, that was a missed opportunity.
Okay, so now in this regard, I think they're slow burning though. Like I don't think it's going. They kind of don't want you to feel that they're showing signs of major arrogance from Kenny, and obviously, with the entrance and how he's handling himself, but they're not going all in, pun not intended for it. So I mean, I think we're gonna ultimately get that come winners coming on December 2nd. Like we'll get more full blown heel Kenny as time wears on. But heck, with what we just talked about, the babyface heel gray dynamic, maybe not, but hopefully we will.
When it comes to pro wrestling and storylines and heel babyface, I personally prefer very broad brushstrokes. I don't care about the fine details and the whole like subtly turning heel. I like big, broad, blatant, black and white brushstrokes. And for me personally, in my taste, we're not getting enough.
So from point A to point B, one end of the spectrum to the other, in the storytelling aspect, I'm 100% with you. But if you're having somebody turn, I'm all for that kind of build of that gradual turn, as long as they ultimately turn.
Well, I don't want time will tell, but Kenny's been turning for weeks.
Well, longer than that. But so Yeah, but I think how they kind of hit the reset button at Full Gear with him, where he's like, okay, he is kind of a baby face now. Now he's turning heel. I think they're on the right track, just as long as they reach the destination and it's a definitive destination.
I'm hoping so. I think that the conclusion is foregone that Kenny's going to be the champ. Thing is, if Kenny is going to go on to be the champ, he's barely being featured on TV. They're not really showing his stuff all that much. And again, his personality is very, very understated. And it's like, okay, like this guy's about to be the flag bearer for your company, and I'm not getting much out of him. So like let's
I agree.
start to show a little more personality if this guy's going to be carrying your strap.
I'm sure we're going to get that next week to the build, because they only have 1 week to do it. So
I hope so. But don't get me wrong. By and large, I'm good with where things are going. The contract signing, just to me, could have been. It was good. Could have been way better.
Okay, I was fine with it. I mean, I'm with you that it could have been better, but for different reasons.
Yeah, it's weird that we're not on the same page on that. But next match, Dom.
Before we carry on, I need to make note of our bet that we made months ago.
Oh, I've been hoping that you had forgotten about that.
I have not forgotten, Marcus.
I've rolled it all into your Christmas gift.
No, you can. I'm sorry, you can't do that. This is
Let's discuss this after the podcast.
No, hey, this is worthy. This was a bet you made on the podcast. You are not skirting this issue here. All right.
All right. What $10 something do you want?
Now, granted, Marcus, we're not quite there yet because Adam Page has not defined himself fully as a babyface, and Kenny has not fully defined himself as a heel. So we'll wait it out, okay? I'm fine.
Well, I will say, Dominic. I pretty much hate Adam Page right now. He's hard to watch on the programs.
It doesn't necessarily mean one or the other, there, Marcus. So
he's a heel in my book.
Well, in your book, but that's not everybody's book.
Dominic, the next match between Pac and the Blade, I thought it was great.
Yes.
The Blade. Pac looks like $1 million still. He's great in the ring.
7 months off or 8 months or whatever it is too. It's crazy.
Yep. I'm still grinding my gears a little bit about the missed opportunity there with the whole like you could have made him an absolute nutbag coming out after isolation. So like I'm really wishing that had been the case where it's just like he's just this broken down like insane person.
Kill you.
Right. But the match itself I thought was really good. It was a little bit unclear who the heel was at first, but then between who's the heel and who's the babyface between Pac and the Blade?
How?
Well, if at first during the match it was very unclear. Like the Blade is like stalking the woman around rather Pac is stalking the bunny around the side of the ring.
He's a Jezebel, Marcus.
Well, we're talking. It looks like you're thinking about putting your hands on a woman. That's not very babyface in my world. But so it does become very, very clear though following the match. But the match itself, very good. Two good technicians.
Yes. Yeah, I really like this match. And when my initial watch, this is when the tale of two shows really turned for me. Was this point in time was like, okay, this is picking up and this is really good. And like Eddie Kingston on commentary, very good. And I very much like this was a concern of ours was like, okay, Eddie's leading this faction of like 4 dudes, plus Bunny when later on. So it's like, it's too much. It's defining everybody down in this regard. So yes. Splitting them up and finally drawing a line with who's the baby faces, who's the heels, 2 of their own factions ready to go against one another. I'm all for it. This is like one of the most intriguing aspects of AEW right now for me is the Death Triangle against Eddie Kingston's family.
Yep, I liked it too. Kingston, getting heat on Pac at the end of the match, very clearly positioned Pac as a babyface. Even more so, Pac being aligned with the Lucha Bros again. It's hard to not like the Lucha Bros because they're so entertaining. So I think that they should have been baby faces right from the get-go. They should never have been positioned as heels. because they are just very entertaining and they're flashy. They have cool masks. Like that's something that kids could easily be drawn to, is the Lucha Bros. So now, so having Pac with them again, a high flyer, great technician, fun to watch, great body. I think very clearly defines him as a baby face. So yeah, that's good. And I'm with you. I think it's going to make for some interesting matches. I'm excited to see the eventual Penta versus his best friend, Eddie Kingston.
My best friend.
You're my best friend.
I liked it. I liked the two coming out with the chair because you really didn't know what he was going to do. Was he going to hit Ray? Was he not? And then, he did the right thing, man, and went after his best friend.
Yeah, no, I thought it was really cool. Something that had me wondering a little bit, Dom, and I'm curious as to if you caught this at all, was as JR was thrown to the next segment, which is going to be the Serena Deeb and Thunder Rosa match, caught a little shade there from good old JR, a little disdain for his company. I don't know if you caught this. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. I can hear JR on Conrad's podcast grilling JR going, "Now you're just looking too far into it."
What is it? I'm not sure what you're talking about here.
So I even like paused it and wrote down the quote, and this is kind of like a loose interpretation of the quote, but he had said, "Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to see some wrestling," like very clear emphasis on the word wrestling. We're going to see some wrestling here with Serena Deeb and Thunder Rosa up next. So it's like we all know how JR feels about Deeb and Rosa. Like he's made it very, very clear that these two ladies are setting the bar really high, especially for the other women in the company. But to me, he hit wrestling pretty hard, kind of like implying all the rest of this stuff, all the rest of this bullshit leading up to this, forget it, because now you're seeing some wrestling.
Now, I think you might be looking a little deep into that because, like we just talked about, that match between the Blade and Pac was really, really good. So I don't.
Yeah, well, that's what kind of caught me off guard, and I know that JR, you can tell that he gets a little bit frustrated with AEW at times in the direction that storylines are moving in, and certainly some of the mat work. So that was the only thing that made me wonder a little bit.
I don't think there was no harm meant by that.
I'm sure I'm just looking too far.
I think he was meaning though to further really hammer home the point that we're in store for a really, really good match coming up. I think that's was his main point.
I'm sure that's probably accurate.
Now,
at the very least, though, it's still got to rub the girls backstage raw.
Well, as it kind of should, though. Honestly, like that's what I said this last week about JR, and you agree with me too. Was like we like that JR is the checks to all those balances, where it's just like he calls shit out.
And by the way, I just noticed this in my notes. I forgot that I wrote this, but it was like a little side thing that was making me laugh. I'm realizing that AEW is pretty much WCW in 1991. Mostly incredible for performers with a few that aren't great. You've got JR and Shivani in featured roles, and Eric Bischoff pokes his head in every once in a while.
True. Hey,
so I don't know.
Did you?
I may have been a little punchy at that point.
Did you get the lighthearted shade he tossed at Excalibur at the beginning of the show too?
Yes, I did, and you know that I appreciated it.
That was really funny, and Excalibur laughed at it even too.
He has to recognize that he's in there with like Babe Ruth and Mickey Mantle, and he's
right. You cannot beat Shivani and JR. Marcus, again, like we've said this before, but how amazing is it we get both JR and Tony Schiavone on a show that two voices of our childhood where it's just like they're there and they're still great. It's like there's nothing. It's just fantastic.
Yeah, I don't know that the younger viewers are really going to ever get to fully appreciate how cool that is to have those two working together. Especially because Monday Night Wars, when we were fans, like when you're on one station, you're hearing one guy's voice. When you're on the other station, you're hearing the other guy's voice. And so like these guys were they were the soundtrack to pro wrestling during the Monday Night War. Like they called all the action, took us on the ride, and now here they are together all these years later, and they're working as a team. Like that is cool stuff.
Really cool stuff. And talking about stars that we were familiar with back then and stars that we're familiar with now. So it's really, really,
Yep.
really neat.
Yep. So if we've got any younger listeners to this who are also younger lovers of AEW, do a little homework on these guys, JR and Tony Schiavone, because this is a special team.
Yeah, and it's not going to last forever, which is like we got to appreciate it while it's all going on right now.
No doubt about it. Dominic, though, let's talk about Thunder Rosa and Serena Deeb.
Yeah, man. Your thoughts first. Give me your thoughts first, because you talk. You're big in both of them. Me too. But I know, like, anytime we bring up the AEW women's division and the wrestling there, these are the two you talk about. So
yeah, I mean, these two are incredible. So I will say this was not the best match that I've seen either of them have on AEW.
Yeah.
There were a couple missed spots, just like a little bit of sloppiness. I'm thinking particularly of one like Snapmare, I believe. It came off pretty bad, and then just a couple like missed grabs and timing issues. Nothing that can't be fixed. But still, even with that, one of the best matches on the program, easily. What I even wrote down, what this is reminding me of, it's giving me some vibes of like it's almost got like the practice nature of because these two know each other pretty well, the practice nature of like a Bret Hart and Dynamite Kid. Not saying that these two. I said before that Serena Deeb reminds me of a female Bret Hart. I'm not saying that Thunder Rosa is like the Dynamite Kid. Just the fact that these two they mesh so well together. It's like a glove fitting a hand absolutely perfectly. Like these two, they belong together in the ring. They know each other's stuff really well. So it's just very easy watching wrestling. And yeah, so those two, that's the match that makes me, if I'm holding a coffee in my hand, I set it down and I lean forward so I can really take in the match, because those two know what they're doing.
I was frustrated because I'm doing the recap and I can't sit down and watch this like fully, like completely. And it's just the presence of Thunder Rosa and the smoothness of Serena Deeb in the match, and then just the mat game that they started off everything with, just like back and forth, and like it's really played to what JR was saying, was that you're gonna see a wrestling match, and that's what it was like starting off all that. I'm with you on the fact about it not being like, obviously I don't think their best match, because there was the Britt Baker interference kind of played a little bit into that, and like it didn't. The commentary got it over that it didn't play a factor in the ending result of the match, but still it's like it disrupts it, which I'm okay with. I'm okay with, because it only plays to that these two can fight each other again one-on-one, and it would make total sense. And then it builds, it furthers that, hey, we're gonna get more of Thunder Rosa on AEW television too.
It gave Rosa an out for losing the match, so I think that they're really positioning her as a top competitor in the company. So to have Britt Baker come down to the ring and interfere, and that's kind of the resulting factor in her losing. I thought it was a good move, in spite of the fact that it did kind of slow the pace of the match a little bit. Also, let me say, I think that Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker could be a very interesting rivalry.
Yes. Oh, for sure. Completely different personalities, and both good in the ring. And, it's something fascinating too. Like, I don't know if I'm sure we talked about this before, but Thunder Rosa only has 5 years of wrestling experience. It's just,
which is wild that she's as good as she is.
She's as natural as it comes. And like the way she plays to the crowd and everything is just, it's top draw kind of stuff.
I believe this truly, that she could be one of the biggest stars in the world, male or female, in pro wrestling. She is very, very unique, not just in the ring, but like she's got such a cool look. If Tony Khan, I don't think he's signed her yet, I would give her all the money. He needs to have her on weekly television showing that audience like this is why you tune into AEW.
This is a reason. This is what the other product is not giving you is Thunder Rosa.
Exactly. And I want to see a lot more between her and Serena Deeb,
Yeah.
again, they've got such great chemistry. And now I'm like, now you can play around with it. Like, let's see how these two do in an I Quit match. Let's see how they do in a cage. Let's see how they do with that NWA belt hanging from where you got to climb to the top of a ladder.
Let's see how they would do eventually if they aligned with one another. Like, that's all intriguing shit. Yeah.
There's everything's on the table. So I'm really hoping that Tony Khan capitalizes.
I'm sure, with the way she's been helping people backstage and talent backstage, her and Dustin collaborating with one another and stuff, I think it's a positive sign, hopefully.
I hope so. I truly hope so. All right, pulling up my notes. We had to take a little intermish there for a sec. Technical difficulties, so give me a sec. Next out, Dominic, we've got the main event. But before the main event kicks off, Darby Allin was in it reminded me of like an 80s music video where you'd see in between the columns. Kind of. It's like black and white, and I can see the music video in my head. I just don't know what it was for, but it's like there's columns and there's like drapery between them, and there's like this dude and he's singing. I don't know. I'm not sure what the song was, but it took me right there.
Taco putting on the Ritz, is it?
I don't know, but seeing him, and then it's like his one leg is on fire and stuff. I was like, what just happened on this program? So yeah, and then it was funny. Taz called him out for setting himself on fire, like he's an idiot. And yeah, good main event. And what I wrote was finally they put over the right team.
Yes.
Brian Cage and Ricky Starks needed this win to establish themselves as credible heel opponents. So yeah, I thought it was exactly the right move. And then finally, they've been building this stupid thing with Hobbs. It's stupid until now, where it was just like, is he joining or not? And it was kind of like a throwaway thing where Taz would mention it every once in a while.
Come on, make a decision.
Well, we're still waiting anyways. And you talk about what else he was, whatever he had a bone to pick with. And now, we finally get the payoff, and it was the right payoff.
Absolutely. It was great. Okay, and they played it so well too, because Hobbs comes in to save Cody. Cody's like, "Oh, hey, thanks, all right," and looking, and you don't really think it's gonna happen, but boom, it happens. They still catch you off guard with it, and it was great. And Hobbs immediately, you're like, boom, I buy him as a heel. I buy him immediately. Team Taz, perfect fit. It's like what you want to see. So,
he's a big guy, and he's he doesn't have a perfect physique. He's just a big bulky guy. And he looks mean, and it's for this guy to be anything other than a heel is stupid. So yeah, they did the right thing by turning him heel, and they're certainly doing him some favors by putting him with Taz as a mouthpiece. We haven't heard him on the mic, and I'm guessing there's a reason for that. So let's get Taz to do his talking for him.
And Taz is great. Ricky Starks did an amazing job in that match too. Brian Cage is always rock solid. And the team of Darby and Cody is just cool too. It's just and Cody, your top star pretty much in a lot of ways, getting the loss in a rightful way. It's just it further puts Team Taz over. And like I said, we're Team Taz folks here. So it definitely plays into it.
Absolutely. You compared them to the Heenan family before, and I don't see why we can't get another little something like that.
Right, man? Right. Further define these fellas out, and they'll define themselves too, because it's just it's on all cylinders, and they can really get this going. Now, there was talk. I was listening to the Wrestling Observer Radio, and how would you feel about a trios title in AEW with all these 3-people factions? Would you be for something like that, or would you be against it?
No, I don't like that idea. It sounds like the 6-man tag team championship. That sounds like what you're referring to.
Yes.
Yeah. So no, hate that.
Why do you hate it though? Because what's wrong with the 6-man tag team championship? Because it's not something that's in WWE. It's not something that's a really prominent thing in American wrestling right now.
I think again, I don't like the I don't like little kind of nuanced stuff. That's like such a niche as far as like, well, these three people are aligned, and here's the championship for when three people align, and they're the best three people that are aligned. It's like let's keep it simple. When two people align, it's a tag team, so there's tag team championships, then there's single championships, and that is it. Like to me, I think it just adds a little bit too much. Now, what I do want to see in AEW is a cruiserweight championship. I think
Marcus, but to that respect, a lot of those guys are cruiserweights. So it's like, is there really that certain clear-cut line, where MLW has the heavyweight championship and the middleweight title. So, and the middleweight title has these parameters where you got to be like 205 is your parameter. And then they also have the open weight championship too, which is open. So, but like with this, it's like a lot of these guys are already the cruiserweights, but they compete. Like Darby, for example, it's like he's your TNT champion. So like he's a cruiserweight though too. So it's like,
well, really I don't know that that's a fair perspective because cruiserweight is now more of a style than an actual weight class. So is heavyweight.
You're going into X division territory now, Mark.
Well, it's a reality, is it not? Like was La Parka a cruiserweight in WCW? He looked more like a heavyweight to me.
They played it off like that. Like if you define him as a weight and you say, okay, he's make this weight, maybe from a visual perspective, you'd question it, but ultimately I bought into it for him being a cruiserweight.
Why? Because of his look and his style. That's why you bought in. Because he was wearing a mask and he had the same style as the smaller guys. I think that to position it that way is the wrong way to do it.
Now cruiserweights though, Marcus, back in those days were 225.
Well, there is no way that Rey Mysterio and La Parka were in the same weight class, or La Parka and Juventud Guerrero.
You don't think La Parka could have been 225 at that point in time?
I don't think so. No, I don't. He was too tall and too chubby, for lack of a better way to put it. So yeah, it's, to me, that's silliness. To me, it's more of a style. And why should Darby would be a credible champion, I can see down the road, but I bet he weighs less than I do. So it's more of a stylistic thing in my opinion. I just don't.
I think AEW, from their perspective, it would make more sense to have a trios title than it would to have a cruiserweight title, because you have a lot of these three people factions, and it just makes sense. You're muddying the waters with another singles title mixed in.
I don't know. Wouldn't you like to see? Me personally, I'd like to see Matt Sydal and Jungle Boy going at it for the cruiserweight championship. I'd like to see the Lucha Bros trying to compete for it. I wouldn't mind seeing Marco Stunt in there trying his best to win the title against guys who are a little bit bigger than he is. I think that there's a lot of different ways to play it, and it just adds something more to those matches where people are so damn insistent on the tope suicidas.
Yeah, nah, I think you're just gonna get that. Like we're getting it already, and you don't need a title to define that further.
Well, I disagree.
We disagree a lot this week. Holy shit.
We do. Well, I don't know how you're gonna feel about my rating, but I'm about to uncork that sumbitch. What are you gonna guess I'm gonna rate it? We should start doing this.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I give you a guesstimate on your Marcus Meltzer rating.
Yes, I have a preconceived rating, and you can take a guess at what you feel it will be.
So last week you rated it real low, which I think ungenerously low. It was like, that's like a slap in the face kind of low.
You liked the show for some reason, so that's why you feel that way.
I'm gonna say you're gonna give it like a 8.1. How's that sound?
8.1. Actually, I've got it at a 7.6 this week. So
Oh, okay.
very, very good show. Not the best ever. There were a couple flaws in there, but for the most part, man, the show is very tight and well constructed.
Yeah, no, I mean, after second watch, like I said, I didn't watch it a full time the second way through, but I wanted to watch matches that were more like fast paced and kind of harder to follow. So I rewatched the majority of the Thunder Rosa Serena D match, and then I watched all of the Young Bucks top flight match, and it made me appreciate it a little bit more. So yeah, I thought it was a good show, and I further am just intrigued. I think they've positioned a lot of their stars in the right manner, and it's still a very intriguing build. And like ultimately, I think AEW is a very good show and something that makes, as a wrestling fan, tune in television. It feels like an event to tune into it each and every week, and that's what you want to get. So ultimately, they're still producing that. The concern is gray areas with babyface and heel still, and that will always be until we get more of a clear answer if we ever do. So that's my only pretty big main gripe with that, in addition to like some of the over the top high flying stuff that kind of like you get desensitized from. But that's almost a across the board problem in wrestling in many regards. So
It is, and the leg slaps, they're getting to be a bit much.
yeah. So I mean, but yeah, good show. Who's your MVP?
I've got to give it to Thunder Rosa again, man. When I think about this show and what really made the show pop for me in general, it's Rosa. She is an absolute star, and I'm really hoping I get to see her a lot more in the near future.
Yeah, Thunder Rosa, great. At least this person was on the show this week, Marcus. So I appreciate that.
Well, the guy, my MVP last week, Max Caster, he was on AEW Dark this week, and I'll tell you, the guy, he passes like the airport test, I think, and he's got like a cool gimmick. Like he's not an especially big guy. He's just one of those guys who's got it. Like if you were passing this guy in the airport, you'd be like, that guy is something. I don't know what he does for a living, but he does something that puts him in the limelight. I really see big things for him if he's treated right.
Yeah. No, I'm intrigued to see him further. I know Anthony Bowens is his tag team partner, and I'm familiar with him. So, and he's got a great look too. So, yeah, I just let's let him get on the show first before we start giving him MVPs here. That's my thing.
Hey, I was excited he had been signed.
Mm-hmm. It seemed that way.
My
MVP, Jon Moxley, just great promo. Gonna be a daddy. It's like he hit all points this week, all points. So
hit all the feels
right there. So got his. He's one of the good guys.
Yeah, well, I was gonna give either him the runner up or the young fella from Top Flight.
Oh,
Dante. Yep. But yes, for me, Thunder Rosa. When I think about this show, I see her face. She's the real deal.
Oh man, you can't beat it.
Dominic, how do they find you on the Twitter?
You can find me on the Twitter at Dominic D'Angelo, my name. So, yes, just type that in your Twitter machine, and I will be there. You can also find WrestleZone on Twitter at WrestleZone.com. Do you want me to plug my other shit, or do you want to find yourself on Twitter first?
No, my Twitter thing doesn't take long, so go ahead and get through your spiel.
Okay, so I got a lot of interviews that I've done here in the past week and a half or so, and weeks before, and coming up. I interviewed Tom Lawler of MLW. The restart happened this past week on Wednesday night. A good lead-in to the Wednesday Night Wars furthering on, and a standout, different vibe that you want, a sports-like feel. You're going to get it in MLW Fusion. I just interviewed Tom Lawler from that. I also interviewed COO Jared St. Laurent, also known as MSL, and we talk about the restart in different facets. So Tom Lawler gives his in-ring perspective of doing the restart, while MSL gives the management/production side of things. So good balance to get you ready for the restart. And hey, tune into the restart too. I just did a survey says on the restart, and what a recap and review of the whole program. So I covered it for MLW, their website, and I figured I would do a little video recap of it all. So I did that earlier today. Also, I interviewed none other than our boy Diamond Dallas Page, who's right over Marcus's left shoulder at this moment in time. So talk to him about his new element he's adding to DDPY, Jacked. So it's an added addition for a lot of the diehards of DDPY. And he adds these blood pressure bands that Tommaso Ciampa kind of introduced in a lot of ways. And then it adds another element to the workout. But we also talk his just different business, where he gets his business ideals of wrestling from Dusty. He talks about Dusty. He talks a lot of good Darby Allin talk coming up. And then also we talk a little bit about none other than Kurt Hennig. So really, really cool. And I'm trying to think. Barrett Brown, be on the lookout for my new series I'm going to start up. It's just called The Independent Interview, where I almost treat I get an independent wrestler on the program, and I almost treat it like a job interview for them, and like just get the basis of what their philosophy, all this stuff coming in, where they got their influences, what they want to see happen, that kind of thing. And Barrett Brown is my first guest. So that should drop next week as well. Really, really cool dude, loves wrestling, and just a standout individual and genuine person too. It's really cool to talk to him. So that's what I have in the lineups. Also look for those Young Bucks interview that our editor Bill Pritchard did earlier in the week. And he just interviewed ROH. Geez, why am I losing thought of his name? It's it's initials. I'm screwing it up, and I don't want to screw it up. But an ROH talent he just reviewed, Fighting Jay Lethal. So he was in Coast. I'm screwing it up.
I you know what? I tuned into ROH this past week.
Did you?
And yeah, I got to see the match with that gentleman. And why is his name escaping me? Also,
wow. It's bad. Marcus, what do you think though of it?
I thought it was good. And again, you know, to me, they were doing like the lead up between these two, and they put the right guy over. Which as I was watching, I was like, I want to see, insert this guy's name here, win. Because to me, it was like the other guy had more of this like kind of a pretty boy look. He had been on The Bachelor. What the hell is that guy's name? Now I can't remember either name.
Pretty boy look. He's been on The Bachelor. I don't know who you're talking about.
Yeah, shoot. Hang on. If we're thinking of the same person, we're gonna have to hit a pause.
LSG, Leon St. Giovanni, is who we interviewed this week.
Okay, that's not who I'm thinking of.
Coast to Coast was the tag team he was into, by the way. Okay, yeah, I wonder who you're talking about. ROH?
Yeah, he was a big, heavy set African American gentleman.
Shane Taylor?
Huh?
Shane Taylor?
Maybe.
Shane Taylor's awesome. Like he's from Cleveland.
Yep, it was Shane Taylor. And I'm trying to get the name of the guy who he just went over.
Now, was it pure tournament rules or pure match rules?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? Okay. I'm really curious to get your thoughts on that, because that's very unique in its own way and very different from what we're seeing too on mainstream wrestling.
I'll have to tune in. You're gonna have to cut this up a little bit.
But
yeah, in any case, yeah, you can follow me though at Marcus P. D'Angelo on Twitter. You know, every once in a while, Conrad Thompson reads one of my questions on his podcast, so you can maybe sneak
into those.
Get a little sneak peek of those questions before they're asked by Conrad. I'm sure he'll read plenty more of mine. I've actually started.
Oh, you got retweeted too by Wrestling 80s Twitter or something like that.
Well,
week.
You know, I don't like to brag, Dominic.
You're gonna become an underground sensation, Marcus.
I think so. So. Yeah, it's like I'm in the Indies right now, and WWE's gonna come calling.
You want WWE to come calling you, or you want?
And then bury me. Put me in NXT and bury me.
Gob you the fuck out.
I'll take a loss to Triple H on the first night.
Even Stevens booking. No, you'll win a title and you'll get your picture taken with him, and then you'll get called up to the main roster, and everybody will forget about you, and you'll just get lost in the shuffle.
See, I'm more picturing like what they did to every WCW talent, where they're like, "Hey, yeah, great, you're on the other program, and we'll have a lot of fun."
We don't like you.
Lose to Triple H.
This is an aside, but I saw the screenshot of Survivor Series 2001 where it was the Invasion versus WWE, and like 3 of the people in Survivor Series on the Invasion side were 3 or 4 people were pretty much WWE guys. The only guy that wasn't, 2 that weren't, was RVD and Booker T. The rest was like Stone Cold Steve Austin, Kurt Angle, and Shane McMahon. It's
yeah. They had no idea what they were doing in that era.
Ridiculous.
I just listened to the Bruce Pritchard episode where they were talking about Eddie Guerrero, and Bruce was trying to justify why the Radicals all got jobbed out immediately when they came to WWE. It's like, dude, you can't defend it. You cannot defend that.
No,
there's like it. You got all these talent coming in, and you're just like, well, yeah, we brought him over. Yeah, do the job.
But maybe that's okay. So, but ultimately, God dang it, Dusty, get the fuck down.
I think I know where you're going. You just got into like a backstage segment with Dusty.
Yeah.
He ran and started beating on you.
He tried doing a Dusty finish here. I think though, like that maybe kind of speaks to like the immediate thing where we go with what a lot of fans do, and what we do too is like these guys, they maybe job out, but like it doesn't really affect them long term. It's just something.
Well, I know you're saying look at what happened to Eddie, but Conrad kind of called him out on that too. He was like, "Oh, so that was your plan all along, right?"
No, I'm not saying it's part of the plan. I'm not saying that whatsoever. I'm still saying that's a bad mistake. You shouldn't do it. But I like from a fan's perspective, it's like, oh well, they're fucked, they're buried, they're done. It might not necessarily be the case with a lot of these guys, where it's like sometimes you can hit the reset button and it'll be all right.
To me, Eddie Guerrero got over it in spite of his circumstances. They kept giving him crap. They job him out, and then he's like trying to get with China, and then China beats him at WrestleMania. And it's like Eddie was just such a transcendent performer that he just was like, whatever you give me, I'm going to nail it and do it better than anybody else ever could and get over with it. And he did.
And you know what? He's the type of guy too. Back in WCW, like he's a guy that I legitimately I did not like because he was such a good heel.
Oh yeah, like it came through your TV. I remember being a kid and thinking like, I don't like this guy. Like he's like a sleazeball. Yeah, he's like a scumbag. But no, it's that speaks volumes about him. How great would it have been to have seen a program between him and Bret Hart?
Geez, Marcus. Okay, that's a perfect reminder. Like I thought this was a great question Kevin pitched to me, and maybe you can incorporate with AEW. Yeah, kind of do what you want on this one. You have to book a fantasy book, a Survivor Series is this Sunday. Now, Survivor Series right now sucks. The brand identity, brand supremacy, all fucking bullshit. Doesn't do anything for me. But Survivor Series as a thing back in the day was awesome. You got a fantasy book, a Survivor Series match between 2 teams. Oh, you can put anybody on these teams you want, okay?
From any era.
Any era. It's a fantasy book. Now, my stipulation for you, because this is the route you would take, is it can't be DX versus NWO, okay? Don't fuck.
Oh, see, now that's a big one.
Don't do that. So that's I'm removing that from your box of gimmicks there.
Okay. Well, let me just say though, before I do, there's a very natural thing that could have happened with the DX NWO thing.
I don't want to hear it.
And that is which side is X-Pac on? Because he ran with both groups. So I think that could be a fun, natural way to play it. But you've eliminated that from my bag of tricks. So Dom, with that being the case, I think the Survivor Series teams that I would like to see, let's get Bret Hart. How many guys are on each side?
4. We went with 4 for ours.
Okay, so 4 guys on each side. I want to see Bret Hart, Owen Hart, Flying Brian Pillman, and the British Bulldog on one side, a little Hart Foundation action on that side, versus a team of technicians. All right, so let's get Eddie Guerrero in there. Let's get the late and maybe not so great Chris Benoit over there on the other side. I want to see Daniel Bryan, and I want to see Kurt Angle.
Ooh, wow!
Now, how about that match?
Pretty darn good. I would remove.
Now, obviously, if you want to remove Benoit because of personal reasons, let's slide Eddie in there.
Oh, you already have Eddie. Who did you mean? Somebody else?
We did already have Eddie. If you want to slide out Benoit, then, huh?
The Iceman.
Yes, that's a perfect one. Let's get Dean Malenko in there.
All right. Did you want to hear mine? So this is what I.
No, I'm good.
You're
Anyways,
okay. You're all right. We're kind of
close. Go ahead. No.
Ours is. I guess we only had one person from this whole thing in my team. So I had the Hart Foundation. So Jim and Brett team up with the Von Erichs, Kerry and Kevin, against the NWO. So I had Hall, Nash, Six, and Hogan. That was my Survivor Series match.
That would be quite something.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Survivor Series is fun. They sucked it up right now, though. It's I don't care. The stakes. There's no stakes. So.
It was cool back in the day, like even with like, you team up the Road Warriors and the Ultimate Warrior, and like you have like these teams of guys where you're like, you know what, I could see those guys actually running together.
I could buy into that. And that's what I said to Kevin too, is like, as long as you give me like heels versus baby faces and they kind of just make sense with one another, you can, and just name the team. That's what I'm about. Like, that's good enough for me, But now it's just like, I don't even want to get into it. Fuck WWE right now. It's like, and their stupid way to handle Survivor Series. They're ruining stuff we appreciated as children.
I'm just not even going to get into it.
I'm not going to do it because you know what? This is still two Dynamite dudes, even though we're talking about WCW and Survivor Series.
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
All right. Yeah, Marcus, good show. Nice job hosting.
Thank you.
I don't want to pat you on the head anymore, so there we go.
Oh, shucks.
D. Willikers.
Well, all right, folks. We will see you next week.
Yeah, what's gonna be our deal next week? Is Thanksgiving, all that stuff happening? I guess we can still do it Friday, huh?
Yeah, let's. Why not still do it Friday evening, as we always do. Unfortunately, Dominic will be hosting next week, but I'm sure we'll muddle through somehow, as they say.
Fantastic. It's like a well-oiled machine. I'm like the Daniel Bryan hosting, and you are like Great Khali here.
The Brutus the Barber Beefcake.
Giant Gonzalez.
Well, on that we gotta close off.
All right. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Great that we have a good amount of listeners. It's really flattering. So I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, let's tell your friends.
Tell your friends.
Let's get a whole damn mess of listeners. Because we'll bring the entertainment. And Dominic, you should post a poll on our Survivor Series matches and see which ones people would prefer.
Like, which one is better? Like my match or your match?
Yeah, the match you chose or the match I chose.
Okay. Yeah, I'm game for that.
Cool.
I'll do it.
Put it up. All right, guys.
All right.
We'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.